All in favor? Carried, thank you. 3B, other business. Go ahead, Margaret, please.
Sorry about that. On page 4 of the staff report, it says, none of the homes are using agency staffing to fill shifts, even though all 3 homes continue to have staff off work. But under the finance report on page 26, under long-term care, it says that increased costs are due to the use of agency staff in pandemic response. This seems to be a little contradictory. Could you please clarify that for me? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll direct that towards Ms. George, please.
Yes, in 2021, we did use agency staff. The finance report is, I believe, about the year-end report. We haven't used agency staff since December, I believe.
Thank you. Go ahead. One more question, Margaret.
Through the chair. On page 7 of the long-term care information report, with reference to where you're discussing how much time is allocated to each resident per day, i.e. currently 2 hours and 45 minutes with a projection of 3 hours and 15 minutes expected in March 2023, could you please clarify if time allotments are broken down against all the services that each person or resident receives? And if you do that, I'm looking for how much time is allotted to bathing each resident, if you have that, please.
Thank you. I'm not sure I understand the first part of the question. Could you repeat that for me?
Okay. You're quoting on page, where did I go here? Page 7 of the long-term care information report that right now, currently it's 2 hours and 45 minutes allocated to each resident per day, and you're hoping to push that up to 3 hours and 15 minutes by March of next year. So I'm just curious if that timing that's allowed per resident per day is broken down into specific time allotments to each service that each resident receives, and if so, how much is allotted to bathing a resident?
The hours per day are a formula, and it's an average per resident per day, and it's actually a sector average. So in our homes, with the new hours, we're between 3.1 and 3.18. But that's not for each resident, it's an average, and it only includes certain positions, so registered nurses, registered practical nurses, and PSWs. Each person requires a little bit different amount of time depending on their care plan and what's required in there. So there's not really a specific allotment for that.
Thank you. There's never been any kind of allotment for bathing time?
It depends on what the person requires. So some people have a shower, some people have a bath, some people require more assistance in the tub than other residents. So those baths are worked into the schedule throughout the day. And most people get 2 baths a week. Some people get a little bit more.
Good, thank you. Seeing no other questions, move into 4A, the Corporate Service Division. There is no agenda items under that one. Next, we'll move into the Finance, Facilities, and Court Service Divisions. Can I have a mover and a second to bring forward the information reports? We will put them all as a grouping unless somebody wishes to pull an item. Steve moves. Steve Miller. Second for the motion, Ian Veens. Anybody wish to pull an item? All in favor? Carried, thank you. 5B, we have 2 reports here we want to do. One is the 2021 year-end monitoring report. Can I have a mover to bring A to the floor and a seconder for that? Moved by Ian Veen, second by Doug Cook. Discussion, please. Go ahead, Mr. Bushy. Discussion? Oh, no, I got a seconder. That's good. Thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you. The 2022 Tax Policy Report. Can I move in a seconder, bring that to the floor, please? Brian White, second by Doug Cook. Discussion on this one. Mr. Cook, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to comment, I agree with the recommendation that's put forward. I think if anything, our alignment with our tax policies closely related to Chatham-Kent, as opposed to, there's a comment in there about Huron County and some of the northern municipalities being affected by Huron County. I think we're more in line with what Chatham-Kent would be with as our base of alignment of industry and whatever. So I would fully agree with the recommendations that are put forward in that report. I don't know if the treasurer needs to speak to that or not.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. All in favor of the report? Carried, thank you. Any other business? Go ahead.
Just a question for staff. Do you know when they have decided to do the impact adjustments for the tax classes? Has anybody, because I know it's been delayed for a few years. I just was wondering if we've heard any news on that.
Through the chair, excellent question. We met with MTAG about a month, 2 months ago, and it's still unknown as to basically when these changes will take effect, or the reassessments and so forth, whether it be the 2023 or 2024 year. So it could be a while, but we're actively monitoring it. I know Mr. Ennis, who's on the Zoom call right now, may be able to add some more information if you really want, but it is something that we're actively monitoring.
Good, thank you. Just a note to that even if the assessments go up, the mill rate can be lowered to bring in the proper amount of money.
Again, through the chair, usually the way reassessment works is if the average property goes up by 10%, the rate gets adjusted so that it's basically revenue neutral. If your property goes up greater than the average, everything else being equal, you might be paying a little bit more. If it goes less than the average, you may be paying a little bit less. But as a whole, without getting into too much of the complexities of tax policy, the basic premise is if you're on the average, you pay the same. If you're above, a little less, a little more, or a little less, depending on where you're at.
The revenue neutral is kind of the key word in there. Thank you.
Just a question through you to the treasurer. Is there a reason why MPAC is not moving forward? Are they giving you a reason why they're delaying? Is it just politics or what's going on?
Again, if you're asking just for some advice, suggestions, comments, there's a variety of reasons. Politics is definitely one factor, but there's the volume of work as well that's being looked at, and the methodology that one would take when you take a look at reassessment and so forth. So there's a lot of issues on the table, and we will comment back as soon as we know more.
Mr. Cook?
Yeah, so just with the value of housing going up so significantly in the last few years, I could just imagine the challenge that they're going to be going through to get any kind of a reassessment policy out there. Just the fact that, we've seen such a significant increase without MPAC even having anything to do with it. So I just don't know how they're going to catch up with the surge of what's happening out there right now.
Mr. Veens?
Thank you, Chair. To you, Mr. Pellet and Cheryl. Is it not going to be scary for these families that have bought these new houses when they get reassessed for their property in the next year or two? Is that not going to be a shock to the system? Like, wouldn't you think you'd be raising the rates a little bit each year just to make sure that we can get through it?
I really can't comment on how things are going to be applied in the future until we know what the rules are. I know in the past, when basically we did some reassessments, the increases were phased in over a few years. So you realize 25% of your increase in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, in order to graduate the increase, because there is that potential shock if you're way above the average within that particular class.
One thing I might add to that, if you're within a municipality and they do a whole municipality at the same time, again, it moves back to the revenue neutral. It's going to be if they do a piece of a municipality different than the north part or south part, when you could get the big tax differences. Otherwise, revenue neutral is the key word all the time there. Even though it might get a big assessment, the municipality only needs so much money, and they'll set the mill rate accordingly. Thank you. So we'll move to number 6, Social Services Division, Correspondence to Receive and File. I'm going to do, because there's several in each, I'm going to do 6 A and B together and move in a second to bring these to the floor, then we can pull out items as we wish. Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Bushy. Do you wish to pull anything out in 6A or B? All in favor? Carried, thank you. There are 2 reports requiring guidance. And a mover and a seconder bring forward the report dated April 20th regarding Homeless Prevention Program Investment Plan. The Homeless Prevention Program Investment Plan report. Can I have a mover and a seconder bring these to the floor, please? Mr. White, Mayor Rumboats, discussion, please, on these. All in favor of the recommendation? Carried, thank you. We're going to move into now B, Reaching Home Incremental Funding Report. Can I have a mover and a seconder bring this to the floor, please? Mr. Cook? Mr. White, discussion, please. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Other business under this sector? Margaret, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Ferguson. Through the Chair to Ms. Colasanti, further to my carried motion on April 6 regarding the proposed increase for ODSP and Ontario Works recipients, could you advise if the letter has gone to Minister Fullerton yet?
Councillor Bird, yes, that letter has been sent to the Minister's office.
Any other business? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. There is no in-camera today. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Veens, all in favor? Carried, thank you.